Welcome to Think in English. Today, the topic is a busy week at work. Listen to this easy English conversation and relax. Monday mornings always feel a little different. Even before I open my eyes, I already know that the weekend is over.
I feel the same way. This morning, when my alarm rang, I looked at the clock and saw that it was only 6:30. I wanted to stay in bed for a little longer.
The bed always feels warmer on Monday morning. The room is quiet, and outside it is still dark.
Exactly. For a minute, I just lay there and looked at the ceiling. I did not want to think about work yet.
That is how Monday begins for many people. The body is still in bed, but the mind is already at work.
Yes, I started thinking about the week. I remembered the meeting on Monday, the new project, and all the work I still had to do.
That is the difficult part. Sometimes the week feels busy before it even begins.
That is true. I had not even gotten out of bed, but already I felt a little nervous.
I think most people have that one small moment when they want to stay home and forget the whole day.
For 1 second, maybe, but then I knew I could not. I took my phone, turned off the alarm, and sat up slowly.
Sometimes that first step is the hardest one. After you sit up, the day slowly starts to feel more real.
Yes, but after I sat up, I felt a little better. I still felt tired, but I told myself, just get up, the morning will become easier.
And usually, after you finally stand up, the day begins to feel more normal.
I hope so, because as I stood up and walked to the window, I had the feeling that this was going to be a very long week.
The office can change your mood very quickly. At home, everything feels slow, but at work, the day starts immediately.
I think the office woke me up very quickly. As soon as I walked in, I could feel that everyone was already busy.
Monday mornings are always like that. People walk faster, talk less, and look at their phones or computers immediately.
Yes, exactly. I said hello to a few coworkers, but nobody really had time to talk. Everyone looked serious.
And when everyone around you looks serious, it is hard not to feel the same way.
That is true. I sat down at my desk, turned on my computer, and took a deep breath. I wanted one quiet minute before the day really started.
Monday mornings usually do not give us that quiet minute.
No, not at all. As soon as my computer turned on, I opened my email and saw more than 20 unread messages.
More than 20? That is never a good way to begin Monday.
I know, some emails were not important, but a few of them were. One was about the meeting, one was from my manager, and one was about a problem in a project.
Before the day had really started, you already had too many things in your head.
Yes, at that moment, I looked at the clock, and it was not even 9 o'clock yet.
Meetings do that. Before they begin, the week still feels far away. But once everyone sits down, everything suddenly feels real.
Yes, exactly. Before the meeting, everything still felt a little unclear, but when everyone sat down, and the manager started talking, I knew this was going to be a busy week.
Monday meetings always seem longer than other meetings, even when they are not.
That is true. My manager talked about all the things we needed to finish this week. There was a new project, an important report, and a few deadlines before Friday.
It is hard to stay relaxed in a meeting like that. You hear one task after another, and the list keeps growing.
Yes, that was exactly what I was thinking. I opened my notebook and started writing things down. I was afraid I would forget something.
Sometimes writing things down helps a little. The work is still there, but it feels less confusing.
It did help. At first, everything felt too big, but after I wrote a small list, I started to see what I should do first.
That makes a big difference. The week still feels busy, but now you know where to begin.
Yes, I told myself, do not think about Friday yet. Just start with Monday morning. And somehow, that made me feel a little calmer.
After the meeting, you probably wanted a quiet hour to start your work slowly. But that usually does not happen on Monday.
No, it did not happen at all. About 20 minutes after the meeting, I found a problem in one of my projects.
Small problems can feel very big on Monday morning, especially when the day has only just started.
A file was missing, and without it, I could not continue my work. At first, I thought maybe I had made a mistake.
That is always an uncomfortable feeling. You start looking everywhere and hope the problem is something simple.
Exactly. I checked my computer, my email, and all my folders, but I still could not find it. After a few minutes, I started to feel more nervous.
Because when something goes wrong on Monday morning, it feels bigger than it really is.
Yes, that is true. Then I decided to ask my coworker for help. I did not want to waste more time.
That is why asking for help matters. When we are nervous, we often stop seeing simple things clearly.
That is exactly what happened. My coworker looked at the problem for less than a minute and found the file in a different folder.
It is funny how one small answer can change your whole mood.
No, it was small, but after that, I felt much better. It reminded me that I do not need to do everything alone.
I thought that after Monday, Tuesday would feel a little easier. But sometimes Tuesday is even busier.
That was exactly my experience. When I arrived at work on Tuesday morning, I already felt behind.
That is the worst kind of start. The day has barely begun, but you already feel late.
Yes, I sat down, opened my computer, and immediately saw new messages. There were emails, chat messages, and 2 new tasks from my manager.
That is the kind of morning when you do not even have time to drink your coffee slowly.
Exactly. I kept trying to finish one thing, but before I could, something new appeared. First, I answered an email, then someone called me, and after that, another message arrived.
That kind of morning gives you no space to breathe.
Yes, and that was the difficult part. I was busy all the time, but I still felt like I was not doing enough.
I think many people know that feeling. You work for hours, but your list does not become shorter.
That is true. Around 11 o'clock, I looked at the clock and could not believe it was still morning. I already felt tired, and I really wanted a short break.
Sometimes working with another person helps, but sometimes it creates a different kind of stress.
Actually, one of my tasks was to work with a coworker. At first, I thought it would make things easier.
That sounds easy at first. But working with another person is not always simple.
You are right, we both wanted to finish the task quickly. But we had different ideas. I wanted to do it one way, and my coworker wanted to do it another way.
That can be frustrating, especially when you are already tired and busy.
Yes, for a few minutes, we kept explaining our ideas, but we did not really understand each other.
Sometimes when people are stressed, they listen less carefully.
That is true. Then we stopped for a moment and started again more slowly. This time, we listened better.
That happens a lot. Once people slow down and really listen, the problem often becomes much smaller.
Exactly. My idea was good for the beginning, and my coworker's idea was better for the ending. So we used both.
That sounds much better than trying to win the discussion.
Yes, and after that, the work became easier. We finished the task together, and it was better than I expected.
After a day like that, I think most people would want to go home as soon as possible.
I wanted that too. Around 5 o'clock, everyone started putting their things away, but I still had one important task to finish.
That is a difficult moment. People are getting ready to leave, but you know you still have to stay.
Yes, I thought I would stay for only 30 more minutes, but in the end, I stayed much longer.
The office always feels different in the evening. It is the same place, but the quiet changes everything.
It really does. After most people left, everything became quiet. There were no phones, no meetings, and no one asking questions.
And sometimes that quiet makes it easier to work.
Exactly. During the day, I could not focus because too many things were happening. But in the quiet office, I finally started working faster.
Maybe because, for the first time all day, nobody was asking you for anything.
Yes, when I finally completed the task, I looked at the clock and saw that it was almost 7:30.
That is a long day.
It was. I felt very tired when I left the office. But at the same time, I also felt proud because I knew I had done something important.
After leaving the office so late, I do not think you had much energy left.
No, not really. When I walked outside, the sky was already dark, and the streets were much quieter than before.
After a busy office, That kind of quiet can feel almost unfamiliar.
Yes, during the day, everything had been so busy and noisy. Then suddenly I was alone, walking slowly to the bus stop.
And when you are finally alone, that is usually when all the thoughts come back.
Exactly. I kept thinking about everything that happened on Tuesday. The messages, the meetings, the disagreement with my coworker, and staying late at the office.
It is hard to stop thinking when the whole day has felt so full.
That is true, but after a few minutes, I stopped thinking about work and just looked outside. The city lights, the cars, and the people going home made me feel calmer.
It is strange how small things can change your mood when you finally slow down.
Yes, little by little, I stopped feeling stressed. I was still tired, but the day no longer felt so heavy.
Almost like Tuesday was finally staying behind you.
Exactly. I told myself that Tuesday was finished, and tomorrow could be better. For the first time that evening, I started to feel a little hopeful.
But when Wednesday morning arrived, it probably did not feel easier right away.
No, not at all. When my alarm rang, I felt even more tired than I did on Monday.
Wednesday has a very different feeling. You are no longer at the beginning of the week. But Friday still feels far away.
Exactly. I stayed in bed for a few extra minutes because I really did not want to get up.
After 2 busy days, even getting out of bed can start to feel difficult.
Yes, I moved more slowly than usual, and even simple things felt harder. I got ready slowly, and during breakfast, I did not say very much.
It sounds like your body was asking for a break, even if the week was not ready to give you one.
That is exactly how it felt. When I arrived at work, I made a big cup of coffee and sat quietly for a minute.
Sometimes one quiet minute is the only thing that helps before the day begins again.
Yes, I stood near the window, looked outside, and told myself, you are already in the middle of the week. Just keep going.
Those words are simple, but sometimes simple words are the ones we believe the most.
I think so too. I still felt tired, but I also knew that if I could get through Wednesday, the rest of the week might start to feel a little easier.
Did Wednesday become easier after that quiet moment?
For a little while, yes, the morning was calmer, and I finally started to feel more awake. But in the afternoon, something happened that changed my mood again.
Let me guess, you made a mistake.
Yes, I sent the wrong file to a client. I was trying to work quickly, and I did not check the email carefully before I sent it.
That is exactly the kind of thing that happens when your mind is tired. And you are thinking about too many things at once.
Exactly. At first, I did not notice it. Then a few minutes later, I opened the email again and immediately saw the problem.
That is such a terrible moment. Everything suddenly feels cold and heavy.
Yes, my heart dropped, and I felt embarrassed right away. I kept thinking, why did I do that? I should have checked more carefully.
The difficult thing is that when we make a small mistake, it often feels much bigger in our heads.
That is true. I knew it was only one file. But for a few minutes, it felt like I had ruined the whole day.
But the important thing is that you fixed it instead of staying worried.
I did. I quickly sent another email with the correct file and wrote a short apology.
And after that?
Luckily, everything was fine. The client was very kind, and the mistake was not serious. But after that, I promised myself that I would slow down and check things more carefully.
After that mistake, I do not think the rest of the day felt very calm.
No, not at all. A little later, it suddenly felt like everything was happening at once.
That is one of the hardest moments at work. Every task feels important, and everybody seems to need something from you immediately.
Exactly. I was still thinking about the wrong email when my manager gave me another task. At the same time, a coworker asked me for help, and then my phone started ringing.
So for a few seconds, you probably did not even know what to look at first.
That is exactly how it felt. I looked at my desk, my computer, and my notebook, and I just felt completely lost.
When there are too many things around you, even small decisions can suddenly feel difficult.
Yes, at first, I did nothing. I just sat there quietly for a moment and took a deep breath.
Sometimes that small pause is the only way to stop everything from feeling bigger and bigger.
I think so too. After that, I opened my notebook and made a small list.
And once you could see everything clearly, it probably felt easier to begin.
It did. I wrote the most important task first. Then the second. Then the third. The work did not disappear. But suddenly it felt smaller and more possible.
After a morning like that, it sounds like you really needed something good to happen.
I definitely did. And luckily, something good finally happened in the afternoon.
One good thing can change the feeling of the whole day.
Yes, I finished one of the most difficult tasks of the week. I had been working on it since Monday, and I was afraid that I would not finish it in time.
So when it was finally finished, you could probably breathe again.
Exactly. I sent it, leaned back in my chair, and for the first time all day, I felt lighter.
And after everything that happened earlier, I think that feeling was even stronger.
It was, but then something else happened. A little later, my manager came to my desk and told me that I had done a very good job.
After the mistake earlier that day, those words probably meant more than usual.
Yes, they really did. I had spent the whole day feeling worried and tired. So hearing something positive changed my mood completely.
It is strange how one small moment can make the whole day look different.
That is true. When I left work that evening, I was still tired, but for the first time that week, I felt more confident about the days ahead.
When Thursday morning arrived, I did not think it felt the same as Wednesday.
No, not at all. I was still a little tired, but I had much more energy than I did the day before.
Maybe it was because you finally felt closer to the weekend.
I think that was part of it. When I looked at the calendar that morning, I actually smiled. There was only one more full day before Friday.
And somehow that small thought changes everything.
Yes, I got ready more quickly. And when I arrived at the office, I noticed that everyone else seemed different too.
In what way?
People were talking more, laughing more, and even the office seemed brighter somehow.
It is strange, because nothing has really changed. It is the same office and the same work. But everybody feels a little more hopeful.
Exactly. For the first time all week, I sat down at my desk and thought, maybe I can finish everything after all.
And when you begin the day with that feeling, the work no longer seems impossible.
That is true. I still had a lot to do. But for the first time that week, it felt like I was finally moving in the right direction.
Even though Thursday felt better, I do not think the work suddenly became easy.
No, not at all. Thursday afternoon was still very important because I had to finish a report before the deadline.
Was that the report you had been worried about since Monday?
Yes, exactly. I had already done most of it, but there were still many small details to check.
And sometimes those last small details are the most stressful part.
That is true. I read every page again, checked all the numbers, and looked carefully for mistakes.
When you read something too many times, it becomes difficult to know if it is really good or if you are only feeling nervous.
Exactly. After a while, I started changing very small things again and again. One sentence, then one number, then another sentence.
Because you wanted everything to be perfect.
Yes, but in the end, I realized I could keep changing it forever.
So at some point, you just had to trust yourself.
I did. A few minutes before the deadline, I took a deep breath and sent the report.
And in that moment, did you finally feel lighter again?
Yes, I leaned back in my chair and smiled because I knew the hardest part of the week was finally behind me.
After sending that report, you probably thought the hardest part of the day was over.
I thought so too. I was ready to relax a little. But then I noticed that one of my coworkers looked very stressed.
You could probably see it immediately because you had felt the same way earlier that week.
Exactly. She was sitting at her desk, looking at her computer, and I could tell that something was wrong.
And when you have had a difficult week yourself, it is easier to notice when somebody else is struggling.
That is true. So I went over to her desk and asked if she needed help.
People do not always say yes right away.
No, at first, she smiled and said, "It is okay." But after a moment, she told me that she could not solve a problem before the end of the day.
Sometimes people want help, but they do not want to feel like they are asking for too much.
Exactly. So we looked at it together. We talked for a few minutes, tried a few different ideas, and finally found the answer.
That must have felt good. especially after such a long week.
It really did. I was still tired, but helping someone else made me feel better too. It reminded me that work becomes easier when people help each other.
By Thursday evening, I think it was impossible not to start thinking about the weekend.
That is true. On the way home, I kept thinking about how tired I was and how good it would feel to finally rest.
After a week like that, you probably were not dreaming about anything exciting.
Not at all. I did not want big plans or anything special. I just wanted to sleep a little longer, stay at home, and have a quiet morning.
Sometimes, simple things sound much better when you have had a difficult week.
Exactly. I imagined waking up without an alarm, drinking coffee slowly, and sitting quietly without thinking about emails or meetings.
Honestly, that already sounds like the perfect weekend.
It really did. For a few minutes, just thinking about it made me feel calmer.
But at the same time, Friday was still there, waiting for you.
Yes, I still had a few important things to finish before the week could really end.
So you could not relax completely yet. But at least you had something to look forward to.
Exactly. Thinking about the weekend gave me a little more energy. And before I went to sleep that night, I told myself, just one more day.
And then Friday finally arrived.
Yes, and Friday morning felt completely different from Monday morning.
It is strange how different the same alarm can feel at the end of the week.
Exactly. On Monday, I woke up feeling nervous and tired. But on Friday, I opened my eyes and immediately felt lighter.
Even though you still had work to do, you knew you were almost finished.
That is true. I still had a few important tasks. But I knew this was the last workday of the week. Somehow, that changed everything.
One small thought can completely change the way the whole day feels.
Yes, I got ready more quickly than usual. And when I left home, even the weather seemed nicer.
Friday always does that. It is the same office, the same people, and the same work, but suddenly everything feels easier.
Exactly. When I arrived at work, people were smiling more, and some of them were already talking about their weekend plans.
It is difficult not to feel a little happier when everybody around you feels the same way.
I think so too. For the first time all week, I sat down at my desk and felt ready for the day instead of worried about it.
But before you could enjoy Friday evening, there were still a few things waiting for you.
Yes, as soon as I sat down at my desk, I opened my to-do list one more time.
And even though the list was shorter, those last tasks still felt important.
Exactly. I only had a few things left. I needed to answer some emails, finish one small task, and send some information to my manager.
That sounds much easier than Monday or Tuesday.
It was easier, but I also wanted to be more careful. After everything that happened earlier in the week, I did not want to make another mistake.
So this time, you did not try to do everything quickly.
No, on Wednesday, I rushed too much, and that only made things harder. On Friday, I slowed down and checked everything before I sent it.
And that probably made you feel calmer too.
It did. One by one, I finished each task and crossed it off my list.
There is something very satisfying about crossing the last thing off a list.
Exactly. When I finished the final task, I looked at my desk, smiled, and thought, I finally did it.
And just when you thought the week was finally over, there was still one last meeting.
Yes, the final meeting of the week. Usually, I do not enjoy meetings very much, but this one felt completely different.
Because everybody already knew that Friday was almost finished.
Exactly. The atmosphere was much lighter than it had been on Monday. People looked more relaxed, and some of them were even laughing.
It is amazing how different the same meeting room can feel at the end of the week.
That is true. On Monday, everybody looked worried and tired. But on Friday, it felt like we had all survived something together.
And instead of talking about problems, you were finally talking about what you had finished.
Yes, my manager thanked the team and said that we had done a good job.
After such a busy week, those words must have felt really important.
They did. On Monday, I felt nervous and unsure. But in that meeting, I suddenly realized that I had done much more than I thought.
Sometimes we are so busy that we forget how much we have already done.
Exactly. When the meeting ended, I felt the pressure slowly disappear. And by the time I walked back to my desk, I already felt like the weekend had started.
After the meeting, it sounds like there was only one thing left to do.
Yes, I looked at my desk and realized how messy it had become during the week.
That always happens when people are busy. Little by little, papers, notes, and coffee cups start to cover everything.
Exactly, so I started putting everything away. I closed my notebook, cleaned my desk, and turned off my computer.
It is funny how those small things can suddenly make the week feel finished.
Yes, exactly. Every small thing felt important. Putting away the papers, pushing in my chair, and turning off the light all felt like the end of something.
I know that feeling. The office becomes quiet, and for the first time in days, you know you do not have to think about work anymore.
That is exactly how it felt. I looked around one last time, took my bag, and walked out of the building.
And when you stepped outside, everything probably felt different again.
It did. The air felt fresher, the sky looked brighter, and for the first time all week, I felt completely relaxed.
When you finally got home, I do not think you stopped thinking about the week right away.
No, not right away. I sat quietly for a while and thought about everything that had happened.
After a week like that, it is hard to suddenly turn your mind off.
Exactly. I remembered Monday morning, when I did not want to get out of bed. Then I thought about Tuesday, when everything felt too fast.
And Wednesday was probably the moment when everything felt the heaviest.
I think so too. I was tired, I made a mistake, and for a while, I felt like I could not do everything.
But when you looked back, you could also see that little by little, things started to change.
Yes, Thursday gave me more energy. And Friday reminded me that I was stronger than I thought.
Sometimes we only understand a difficult week after it is over.
That is true. During the week, everything felt confusing and stressful. But when I looked back, I realized that I had learned something every day.
And maybe that is why the difficult weeks matter too.
I think so. The week was busy and stressful. But in the end, I felt proud because I did not give up.
After thinking about the whole week, it sounds like you are looking at next week differently now.
I am. On Monday, I felt nervous about the whole week. But now, I do not feel that way anymore.
Because now you know that even when the week is difficult, you can handle it.
Exactly. I know next week will probably be busy too. There will be more emails, more meetings, and maybe more problems.
But this time, those things will not feel so new or so frightening.
That is true. I learned that I do not need to do everything perfectly. I only need to do one thing at a time.
And you also learned that when something goes wrong, you do not have to deal with it alone.
Yes, this week was difficult, but it also showed me that I am stronger when I stay calm and ask for help.
That is a very different feeling from the one you had on Monday morning.
It really is. Next Monday may still feel difficult when the alarm rings. But now I know that after a few days, things can become easier again.
So the week ends in a very different way from how it began.
Yes, it began with stress and worry. But it ends with a quiet feeling that maybe next week will be okay too.
Thank you for listening to Think in English. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. See you in the next video.